Hello and welcome to M&B Airgun Review. And I got a treat for you today. We're going to take everything you've ever learned about air guns and we're going to throw it in the garbage. And I'm going to do this video, and I deleted a last video I did on this because I tried to simplify things, and sometimes a lot of you out there, and me included, we get set in our ways and we think a certain way and we go through life and, well, we're wrong. And sometimes we need our eyes opened a little bit to understand what things really mean, especially in the world we live in today. We need to understand what things mean, or we walk around like bumbling idiots, spewing the same misconceptions all the time. Well, I'm going to try to break that mold with everybody today, and I hope you appreciate this. I appreciated it when I learned it, and I'm hoping I can pass this on to you, maybe not in a comical manner like I did last time, because a lot of people took offense to that, and I apologize if I offended. We're going to talk air guns today. We're going to talk PCPs, and you've been following this channel. You know I talk about this every once in a while, and you see I get a little backlash in the comment sections with people who try to describe PCP rifles to me as something that they're honestly not. Now, to look at this, we have to understand two definitions. We have to understand what a PCP, a pneumatically charged gun, is. It's a pre-charged pneumatic PCP. And we have to understand what an HPA system is, and that simply means high pressured air. Okay? Those two terms are, while one is very specific, one is not. A high pressured air system is a very specific term because, well, we're moving air. But is it as specific as you think? Bear with me. PCP has to do with pneumatics. And I'm going to give you a definition of pneumatic, okay? And this is straight from Webster. Now, we have to deal in definitions, because if we don't deal in definitions, we're not dealing in reality. We're dealing with something we've made up in our head, or something that we have heard and regurgitated many times over that is not factual. So the first thing we're going to deal with in PCP is the pneumatic part, so we can all come to an understanding and an agreement on what pneumatic means. Okay? Now, I'm not going to start out with even the beginning of the definition, because that's a hard one for you guys to really grasp onto. The brain doesn't want to, because you've been taught differently. Okay? But pneumatic means moved or worked by air pressure, adapted for holding compressed air or gas. And it has having filled cavities. So let me read that back to you. A moved or worked by air pressure, adapted for holding compressed air or gas above and having filled cavities. Which means our Sig Sauer is filled with air, and it fills the cavities of the gun when we shoot it or what have you. It requires the cavities to be filled to shoot the gun. And the end result is the pellet coming out and the air moving with it behind it. So we got a pneumatic definition right there, and that's part two of the definition. Okay? And there's a lot of terms that we throw out there, but we really don't have an understanding of what we're even saying when we describe something. And this is to the manufacturers, because you guys keep this, what I'm about to say, going and going and going amongst the airgun world. And even the airgun channels the experts think that they have a clue of what's going on, but they're really regurgitating what they're told by manufacturers and other retailers. And it's not it's not a lie, it's a misconception that's been, like I said, regurgitated. So, with part two of this definition, if it's moved or worked by air pressure, okay, by air pressure, adapted for holding compressed air or gas, okay, so what they're saying is, can be air or gas, okay, that means pneumatics has to do with air or gas. And do you know why they say air or gas? Air is comprised of gas. Yes, 78% nitrogen to be exact and 21% oxygen. There's a couple gases right there. So in effect, air is gas. So all guns are gas guns if you want to get specific, and I didn't want to go down this path, but we're gonna because of the misuse of the term PCP. Now, I think we can all, now we're gonna work backwards and we're gonna go to the first definition. First definition is this, of relating to using, this is pneumatic, of relating to using gas, okay, or air, even such as wind. I want you to think about that. Do you know why that is? Because believe it or not, PCPs, our PCP guns, were not, they didn't invent the term PCP. PCP's been out for many, many years, long before the first air gun was ever invented. There's pneumatic tools. There's pneumatics used in the wind industry, in the propane industry, fuel industries. It's all over the place. So a PCP is just a term that the air gun world took because they're a pneumatically charged gun, and they applied it to the guns. But they gave you a misconception with that, and that is PCPs are all high-powered, and they're not. They're not all high-powered. Because every single air gun or gas gun that we use is a PCP. Now, a lot of you are going, no way. I was taught different. And I understand. You got to change your thinking. But remember, we're working with definitions. Because the real definition is, even air is a gas. So realistically, they're all gas guns. Does that make sense? Or are we going to say we don't breathe in 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen? Because that's a lot of gases that we breathe, right? It's a gas. CO2 is a gas. So I hope you understand that all guns now are pneumatic. And what else do they all have in common? From your lonely little air pistol to your CO2, blowback CO2 pistol, to your airsoft gun, to your break barrel, to your high pressure air systems? Well, they're all PCPs, right? And they're all pneumatically charged. They're pre-charged, as a matter of fact. Pre-charged pneumatic. Because we have to, by definition, before we use them to make them function, we have to charge them first. On a break barrel, we have to force air into the piston. Sometimes that's a nitro piston. Sometimes we get guns like this one that can fire over 1,000 feet per second. It didn't even break the sound barrier sometimes. CO2 has to get inserted into the CO2 guns. That's a gas, and it's pneumatically charged. And you have to do it ahead of time, and the canisters are what? They're charged beforehand, and you put them in, and you shoot them, and they lose their pressure, and you have to put another pre-charged cylinder in, turning it into a pre-charged pneumatic. Every single gun that you see, and all the guns in my gun case in the back, my big bores, all of them are pre-charged pneumatics, because we have to, I hope we can agree on this, we have to make them shoot by adding gas or air. And realistically, gas and air are the same. Now, they're not made up of the exact same things, but air is a gas. You didn't know that. A lot of people don't know that because they didn't take a science class. Air is gases. 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen. It's gas. We can't change that because if you wanted to change that, we're going to die because that's what we breathe. So it's just a fact. So your pneumatic is gas or air. We're simply filling cavities in a mechanism that's going to shoot forced air or gas through that mechanism and out the other side, making it pneumatic. HPA is a more specific term, meaning high pressured air. And if you want to really break it down, air is a precise mixture of 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. So we can definitely with assurance say that an HPA, a high pressure air system, uses only what is classified as air, which is 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen to use. So that's a specific use. So we should be using HPA on what everybody is thinking is a PCP. We should be using the term HPA because our terminologies are wrong. And if you want to make it because you think you have the highest powered rifle that there is, and you say, well, mine's higher power, so it's PCP. Well, maybe you should invent another term, or someone should, where it's a SHPA, a super high powered. But I assure you that this is an HPA. This is actually an HPA because it's high pressured air. You're charging a nitro piston. I hope this might open up your eyes because it has nothing to do with the seals in the gun. It has nothing to do with the tank that's on the gun. It has nothing to do with the way the gun shoots. If the cavities of the gun, if you have a tank and it's holding air and it's pushing that air through the cavity of the gun, causing a pellet to shoot out the end of a muzzle, you have, congratulations, a PCP rifle. Whether it's CO2 or nitrogen and oxygen, air. Thanks for watching, and I'll be talking to you soon. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll be talking to you soon.